Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 37th episode of our first run through House of Light on YouTube, playing as the archaeologist and getting ready for a summer salon. Same guests as last time, hopefully with a little bit more luck in terms of the interactions, but we're also going to get the further stories. So we actually have quite a bit to get through in terms of today's tasks. I think we can get it all managed, but I do want to be careful in terms of how I'm sort of balancing all of my time. So we'll start by inviting people right away. So the postmistress keeps the gate to the wider world. In her left hand is the lightning, which is to say the telegraph, and in her right the thunder, which is to say the only, telephone in Brandkrug. Before her, lies the cash register, which accepteth the lesser currency and the greater currency and returneth its lesser children. I am hiccuping quite a bit. Patience, thus the mountain awaits the fall of the snow, thus Monday awaits the death of the weekend, thus the postmistress waits for me to purchase the necessary stamp. Whoops. All right. So I do want to try and use Denzel. So one of the reasons why I want to use this foresight that I'll get after I finish dreaming on it, I want to use this early on just because it's a nice little bit of low-hanging fruit to open up the Shrouded Stair. It'll involve me using up the metal, but the metal is something that I can pretty easily restore in time for the salon. We're already going to have a minute to wait for the guests to arrive. So it's just one of these things which should be quite straightforward for me to knock out. And I know that at the end of the salon, I'm going to wind up with, I think, a satisfaction, which is something that I might want to take overnight. So I'm just trying to, use the things that are less likely to show up in the salon. Use those to try and accomplish other things over the course of the day while still staying on track to getting everything that I need done. So all of that to say, the smithy, Denzel Smith, strong as an oak, blackened by smoke. He will never surpass his father, and he is no longer a soldier, but he still has his craft. I am always welcome at Denzel's smithy. Denzel rarely works for free, but he won't take payment for helping a friend. All right, so we're on our way with Corso. It's a cloudy day, so that works in our favor, just in the sense of not wanting, we're not missing out on anything important memory-wise. All right, so I'd kind of like to try and restore the health right away, but the first thing I want to do here is talk to Denzel about the metal and get that restored. So, inspiration and determination boosts forge and edge. And here is the foresight. That'll be the next thing that we give to Denzel. But the thing is, right now, we just want to get him sorted for the Shrouded Stair, send him off there, invite him for the salon. That's the order in which I want to do all of this. All right, Serena's on her way. So these are the individuals related to the further stories. Now we'll invite Olympi. Stamp, envelope, send. And last but not least, that Strathcoin fellow. All right, so whenever I want, we're good for, we're kind of good to start the salon, but I'm gonna wait it out. Well, sorry, I'm in a minute. We'll be ready. I do want to take the opportunity though to make sure that I've restored the elements of the soul. I don't maybe want to leave it late because I think the way that picnics work, I don't think it's possible to get an extra trial. So for that, I would probably want to host something in the refectory or the Hall of Division. I guess the Hall of Division is the only option that I have for myself right now. But that's, again, with the elements of the soul that I have right now, I don't actually think I need to worry that much about it anyway. So we'll just focus on what we can handle right now, which is opening rooms, restoring elements of the soul, and then using whatever lessons I get at the end of the salon. All right, exalt with a memory. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. Now, of course, the important thing here is to get the metal back in the running as soon as possible. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is summer. I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. So in 16 seconds, we'll be able to see what Corso thinks of the event. I think probably here I'll just wait until Serena is there as well, just so I can do an easy contrast. I'm probably not actually going to act on this until I can get Hokabald's view as well. But here is Signor Corso Reverti. All right, memories don't last long outside books, but it's made a difference for the day. So Denzel's at his 6 forge. No reason to keep him around. So the Shrouded Stair. This has long been a holy place, but the Menace Gate has withdrawn her favor now. Someone has shattered a mirror on the floor. The shards wink from the gloom. Something half-seen flits from shard to shard, avoiding my gaze. Unseen, no matter how quickly I turn my head. Only once it's pacified will I be able to pass safely. So that's Denzel sorted. Speaking of Denzel, I am always welcome at Denzel's smithy. Invite Denzel up to Hush House. All right, there is Serena, so now I can start investigating the further stories. We'll just wait for the remaining invitees. Denzel inclines his head in thanks. Denzel has sent a gift ahead. Some mushrooms. Eat them on toast, bake them with potatoes, or pickle them alone. Have I done? I don't think I've actually done the... Sorry, I'm going to check my spreadsheet. Yes, I have the mushroom and potato bake, a main course with heart, scale, nectar, and moon. Denzel visiting. Denzel will attend the next salon in his cleanest clothes. Denzel knows more oddities than the average country blacksmith, but being both more taciturn and less erudite than some other visitors may be slightly less productive of lessons. All right, so we're in good shape here. Let's take a quick look at the Tree of Wisdoms and just get a peek. So this was related to the Royal Endeavor, what lies at the heart of the new king's great project. So if we add Corso, it says here sabotage. Oh, I think if I click on it, it will actually move us down that path. So sabotage, protect, or unveil. All right, it's very tempting to see the further steps, but I believe in this case here I will actually lock myself down a path. So I suppose the question here would be sabotage, protect, or unveil. I haven't thought about this, so I'm trying to think in terms of the archaeologist. So I'm less inclined to go down Corso's path here. But the question is protection or unveiling more consistent? Because there is that side of me that says... Like, okay, so... I always, once in a while, I'll get a message which is very cross with me for taking the time to think about this. But again, this is the difference between whether or not you think this is a role-playing game or not. When I think of the archaeologist, right, we'll go back to the description of the archaeologist. At least this is how I like to think of these sorts of things, because there's a story that's being told, and you sort of reveal yourself through your actions. So I am the librarian of Hush House, and this journal will record what arose from my crime and my curse. The archaeologists' dearest wish when they came to the house was to record a history where their crime could be forgiven or redefined, but you can complete the game by recording any history. You might wish to begin your studies with a skolakosophy wisdom. I opened a tomb and found too late that it was a prison. The plague that I released is now my shadow, or perhaps I am its reflection. It is too late to set matters right, but it is never too late to protect the future from the past. In Hush House, I can do no harm. Perhaps I can even make amends. Now, not everything needs to be seen in relation to the archaeologist's background, right? But generally, when we think about characters, we tend to see, we see certain things that people do. And one of the things that's really wonderful about stories is that they are flexible enough that you have absolutely no, there is no restriction in terms of what a character can do and make sense. There's a writing group that I'm a member of at work, and this does sometimes frustrate me in terms of the discussions where there will be people who sort of really take apart somebody's story because they perceive it as an inconsistency for, I don't know, let's take an example, like a really wealthy character is wearing sweatpants. And you can see why they would make this criticism, right? To their view, every wealthy person basically looks like they're in Succession. That, they're always going to be wearing clothes that are expensive, maybe not obviously expensive, maybe not a lot of brand markings, but wealthy people must always wear expensive clothes. This is not necessarily true. There's ideas of like new money versus old money. There are certainly types that will have tremendous wealth, but they will be, they'll buy a car and use that same car for as long as humanly possible. The idea of extravagance is very much frowned upon. Or, you could be new money and it's just a symbol of that character's, the fact that they haven't gotten past the days of wearing sweatpants. And of course, they're in an environment now where, nobody can tell them that they have to wear something else. So this is what I mean in terms of characters, right? You can give, there can be any number of different circumstances that characters find themselves in. And the decisions matter because they will reveal something about a character. And the collection of those decisions will very often be what make the story. But because we're playing the game, because we're authoring the story, sometimes these connections will make sense after the fact, and sometimes we're making individual choices for ourselves. So all that I want to say here, right, is that so some of these decisions may be completely unrelated to the archaeologist's journey and their background. I think because I have this information, it's hard for me to ignore that as part of it. And none of this means I'm restricted to any individual path. But when I take a look at the options here, and I see that my choices are sabotage, and I've kind of already ruled that out. I don't feel particularly loyal to Corso and his hirelings. And I have protection, and I have, revelation. So in one sense, right, you can almost see the decision to help Serena as being the same impulse that got me into trouble in the first place. I only realized too late what a bad decision it was. And, my natural inclination towards discovering things is followed through in terms of Serena. And in the case of Hokebald, right, protection, maybe that is my reaction or even potentially overreaction to the New King's Great Project. Maybe I don't feel any particular patriotism. Maybe I don't feel any particular alignment for the project. But in this case here, I sort of know that there are things that should better be left to the experts. And so perhaps this is an indication in terms of, how I've been changed by the experience. And so, again, obviously I'm taking some time to talk about this, but this is actually a little bit of a dilemma for me, right? I haven't thought too much about the archaeologist. I haven't thought too much about their decisions. And I understand in terms of the game, for very practical reasons, there can be a benefit to me adding Serena over Hokebald, because I have immediate access to Serena, and I can advance the story, and I can get, I can get that progress. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the option that I want. The other thing that might be guiding this decision, by the way, because again, I don't want to deny the fact that this is a game, right? The game gives me certain bits of information, and I will use that information to inform my choices in the game. They're not purely story based, and I don't think they necessarily have to be. But when I take a look at the Lighthouse Institute, and for those of you maybe who haven't been here since the start, the Curia of the Isle is long gone. Once it helped preserve a little knowledge and a kind of safety here in Brandkrug and establish the position of librarian. Rowena, secretary persistent of the Curia, a complex entity who has long protected Hush House, is both exhausted and compromised, and so it's time for the librarian to return the favor and establish a successor to the Curia. Help visitors pursue their goals and develop their agendas. When you found 6 suitable candidates inspired by agendas, you can suggest that they found an organization that's a worthy successor to the Curia of the Isle. If you cannot find a suitable secretary persistent, Rowena will continue to serve in that role, even as she continues to wane. So our options for treasurer, we can put Fraser Strathcoyne, Princess Kokil Amirajibi, Daymare, and Magister Hokebald. For the secretary salvant, our options are Peterick Distis, Black Ellie, Ethan Fekri, and Stanislav John Schaller. I always keep getting caught by Black Ellie. The Secretary Vigilant, that can be Lala Kaima, D.I. Douglas Moore. Oh, he's a new one too. Azita Bukhara and Lieutenant Arthur Thomas Moore, retired. Secretary Enigmatic can be Dr. Aaron Peels, Senior Corso Reverti, Dr. Yvette Southey, or Zachary Wakefield. Secretary Nunciant can be Serena Blackwood, Olympie Bichet, Dr. Ibn Aladim, and we're going to ignore Connie on that. And then the Secretary Persistent, in addition to Rowena, our options here would be Mademoiselle Margot Matutine or Mrs. E. I believe that is Echidna. So I have lots of treasurer options. Magister Hokebald would be an interesting choice. But yeah, so I suppose for all of that said, one thing that might guide my decision is, okay, do I think, when it comes to Secretary Nunciant, do I think Serena would be my best choice? Do I want to? I mean, there is an argument to be said that because Serena has worked both at Hush House and the Invisible Serapeum, her connections would be a good one. But then that's also an argument for Ibn Aladim. In any case, I think I'm going to put that decision on ice for now. I haven't quite decided who will found the lighthouse. I've actually got a couple of ideas now that I've been thinking through that, but maybe that'll be something that we develop over the course of the playthrough. So I suppose the remaining question is, do I want to start the salon now? We've got 19 seconds for the rest and refreshment. I don't recall... can we put everybody in yet? Yes. All right. Let's go for it. My guests settle down to a picnic. Keep an eye on the salon as it progresses. You will need to add soul cards to encourage the conversation to flow. Different guests will need different soul cards. The more guests, the longer the salon will last. And of course, we don't have a secretary persistent yet. Wistful asides, instinct and emotion. Add a tryst card. Good start. So here we go. Yeah, I actually potentially set myself up for disappointment there, because if it asked me for metal, I probably wouldn't have had that in time. Or 6.1. Okay, so it'd be close, but Better now. I will bring back one of the health. I actually don't think it'll be ready in time for the salon to finish, but it's summer. I'm sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. Olympi chats with Denzel about village life. It is mostly Olympi who does the chatting. So I don't actually think this produces a lesson for us. Yeah, we get a gossip. Spice up the conversation. Add an Arab card. Denzel teaches Corso a few words of Kernwek Henevek, the ancient tongue still used in some of Brankrug's winter ceremonies. He refers to it as Tavis Mistern, perhaps the king's tongue, and speaks not of it, but of him, as if the language were a living king indeed. Now, that really helps me. We don't yet have Kenevek, so that brings us ahead in terms of our language lessons, and it also saves us the Spintria. So I was feeling a little hard done by about the gossip, but Denzel's presence actually really helped us out here. Obviously, we just opened another room, but let's wait for the salon to finish. Conversation ebbs and flows. Say something witty. Add a Shapt card. All right, we're really pulling ahead here. Serena asks Denzel about the work that his father did for Governor Collars of the Kukurbet. Denzel replies briefly but politely. It is plain that neither of them much liked Collars. Okay, glass blowing and vessel crafting, which is already in the list. However, we don't have that to level 2 yet. Wistful asides. Instinct and emotion. Add a tryst card. Better now. So I was wrong in my estimation that we wouldn't have this in time for the end of the salon. Corso chaffs Olympi about her recent review of a performance of Menander's The Burning Woman, which she considers an outright manifesto for the creation of new hours, gods from steel. She acknowledges that it's an absurd idea, but disagrees that the director thought it was absurd. So transformations and liberations, that might require a little bit of thinking on my part in terms of what we do with that memory. I wonder what the last one is. Ask about dreams, add a Fet card. So I think we are out of luck, but let me just take a second here. If I look at... where did I put these? Sorry, just give me a second here. Maybe this one? I know you can't see what I'm looking at, but... So Fet would be Horomakistry and Nyctodromy. Right, and neither of those I can access at level 2. So I know we covered this before, I just wanted to... It's just one of these things I don't want to run by. I don't want to just automatically assume, but you know what? I'll take the... I'll accept missing one. We had a pretty good run with this salon. A lively picnic concludes. My guests leave happy. You've gained an additional potent memory. All right, so for all that, we've got gossip. Okay, Fraser. Lively Salon. You've held a lively Salon. This is a marker to remind you that you can't hold another Salon until next season. We'll maybe try and make some progress on that. Ooh, the Wild Surmise. Now, I need to remember on this one, I actually lost my last Wild Surmise on stream because I forgot that this isn't a persistent memory. But that's fine. Okay, we did get the satisfaction, so clearly I'm not going to keep that. At least if, you know, sacrificing the Wild Surmise is what's required to keep it. Transformations and Liberations, Glass Blowing and Vessel Crafting, and then Henneveck. So the first thing that we'll do here is take Henneveck. That'll give us access to more books. It should be these three. Actually, I have more of these than I normally do at this point. I think glass blowing and vessel crafting is a pretty easy one for me to level up. I think the only thing here is I would need a second... No, what am I saying? Oh wait, no, sorry. I don't have a knock or a sky. So yes, I'll need some kind of memory to level it up. Transformations and Liberations requires a little bit of thinking on my part. So I believe that this was going to be... I think actually Transformations and Liberations is a pretty helpful one, so I think I had that higher up on the list. So I can see me leveling this up to a 3rd spot. The catch is, how am I going to do that with my existing memories? I don't have an infinite amount of time. So let's take a moment to think this through. So we'll acquire the Henneveck. This doesn't require any thinking on my part. I don't have anybody to talk to right now. We will cover the Radiant Stair. The Watchman's Shrine here is decorated with the Eye Elegabline, a controversial variant of the Watchman's Eye. The Elegabline rites have always had a shaky doctrinal status. It would not often have been seen, of course. These stairs were reserved for the choir monks who sang the Liturgy of the Hours, the only ones permitted to enter the chancel. Still, it is a little surprising that the eye was allowed to remain when the monastery was dissolved and the aisle given to the de Wolfs. So there's a couple candles here, the beeswax candle, simple and bright. And the Watchman's Shrine, the watchman is the hour which navigates, which illuminates, which is not compassionate. Okay, so let's say that I want to follow through on the leveling up plan that I had here. So we don't have Faust, so Shapt is a definite... This is required in terms of leveling up glass blowing and vessel crafting. And then let's say we'll use the Tryst to level up Transformations and Liberations. I do have the option of the metal, but the metal will allow me to catalog one of these books. So then there's the core and the health. I may or may not use those later. I do have the option of opening the parcels. The problem is that the parcels will be, I'll be competing with the Consider for the lesson, so I don't want to mess with that. Now for Transformations and Liberations, I actually already have a moth in the sense of clouds, but again, the Gossip and the Satisfaction don't really help me here. So I think probably my best bet is... if we leave the metal aside, and that's going to be for cataloging, then we can use the core and the health to read something that gets me the knock and the moth, or whatever else. And then that'll leave the Wild Surmise for overnight. And then I suppose we just wind up losing the, Satisfaction. Oh, sorry, we also have... 20 seconds before I get another health back. But yeah, I think this gives me enough to work with. So let's go. Confounding Parables would give me a sky to work with. Just trying to think if there's anything interesting that I can get out of these books. Let's try Locksmith's Dream. Volume 2. So this gets me glass blowing and vessel crafting. So Forge and Moth would be what I use for Transformations and Liberations. So Fears doesn't get me that. Impulses would. And there's actually a couple of interesting ones that I can work with here. Actually, we don't need to make this a big deal. I think I'll just read Traveling at Night. Ava, a magnificent 18th century secretary desk commissioned for Lady Ava de Wolf, last of the Brandkrug de Wolfs. And we read Traveling at Night, Volume 1. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So we'll go a little bit later today just so that I can get the memories taken care of. But I'm feeling pretty good with how it went. Oh yes, of course, I did threaten that I was going to catalog a book, so let's get that done right now. Catalog a Dawn Period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Dawn Period, sometime before the end of the first millennium, commonly reckoned. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. Better now. Okay, so if I want, I can turn this into money. I'm just trying to think through. So if so the thing I'm trying to think through right now is if I bring back a shaft, I still have enough time to be able to make the money. The question is, what do I get from having that shaft that I wouldn't otherwise? I guess I get the chance to catalog another book. I think that's reason enough. Another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms. Alright, Hanivek, Kernwek Hanivek, the oldest form of the language now called Cornish, or something even older. So if memory serves, so this one goes to Bosk or Ithistry, so I believe in this case we've already committed something to Bosk, so I'll just double check. I believe, yes, we did have Hanivek and Ithistry. Now, there is a little bit of a problem here in the sense that this doesn't get me anything I didn't already have. But I'm fine with it. So, the stars. Oh, this also gives me a whist, so this opens up new possibilities for me. A Smith's proverb in Brankrug: what starts in the sky ends in the earth. A story goes with it that the village smith's anvil in the time of the DeWolfs was hatched from a meteor stone, and so every plow in the village knows something of the stars. Not many remember the story, but everyone remembers the proverb. It would probably count as Ithistry. I also really like how this works out because, of course, it was Denzel who gave us Hanivek, so I like the fact that we got the stars on this one. It wasn't necessarily planned, but I'll take it. So, big deal that we got the whist here, though. I'm really, really happy about that. I suppose the question would be, what do I want to use it for? But that's a tomorrow me problem. Now, one thing I didn't account for was my access to certain memories at certain times. So we are waiting for 30 seconds. What can I do in 30 seconds with the consider verb? Nothing really special. I'm going to do something a little risky here. So I just got the whist, and it's possible I might be contaminating it, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Curia period, roughly the 1700s to 1800s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. In the mountains as upon the plain, there may not be a path where none has passed. The Nine Gala of Lagash describes the secrets to be found in mountains, and this has the fifth eye curse, which requires heart to cure it. Also, it's an 18 sky text, so that's gonna take us a while to handle. So it's going to be close, but I believe we will be able to get both skills before the end of the day. But yeah, so the plan here is going to be we use the Shapt and the Tryst to level up the two skills that I've got: Transformations and Liberations, and Glassblowing and Vessel Crafting. And then the health I'll use to earn some money, and then the Shapt that I'm bringing back I'll use to catalog a book. Traveling at Night, Volume 1, The Annotated Dream Journals of Christopher Olopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist. Literate, entertaining, bewildering. The wood lies outside the walls of the Mansis. As any student of the histories knows, the Mansis has no walls. Alapoli describes how he came to make repeated visits to a dream wood via what he calls silver dreams. Trying to think your way to the wood, he explains, is like thinking your way to being in love, but I did find a secret that helped. So this is for Transformations and Liberations. And then The Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions, the second volume of Teresa Galmier's examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. In this volume, Galmier records fewer dreams and explicates more on her own elaborate theories. We see this again and again. What is below can't escape what is above. The finest artisans all dream of the white door in the end. I'm no artisan, only a scholar. I think there's a secret that all these artisans know, but I think that secret is only half the story. Okay. So I'm going to do Transformations and Liberations first, and this is just because it's slightly harder. Like, 2 memories is nothing, but slightly harder to level up Transformations and Liberations, so I usually like to get in the habit of doing that first, and that's just because later on down the road when I'm trying to put 7, memories together, it's just a little bit easier for me to... I get that out of the way and then I don't need to worry about it. So if I build the habit in the simple cases, when the complicated cases come, I'm sure you've all seen that I have a tendency to forget things. Oh, the snow's really pretty right now. But yeah, this gives me a chance just to try and unload some of that cognitive burden when I get distracted by things like snow. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. And now I have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. Oh, Musgrave's sketches. Musgrave, 4th Baron Brankrug, was widely mocked as the Bleating Baron and the Lamb de Wolf, but these sketches reveal a complex, somber inner life. So, of course, we already had that here. It's been a while since I've seen this book. I don't think I have space. Well, you know what? We'll make space. So this is the 12 collection. I'll work with that. Okay, I know we're going quite late here, but maybe what I'll do for the for this stream here, I'll make sure that I lock in the shaft, and then I'll save the rest for tomorrow's episode. All right, better now. So, manual labor, there's not much work on offer in Brankrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. For our knock, we will catalog another book. So we've already got the Curia period. Actually, that's kind of funny. Musgrave sketches. I just had it. Musgrave Sketches is a Curia period book. Huh. I guess it depends when it was written. I thought it was autobiographical, but it may not be. All right, Catalogue a Baronial Period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's baronial period, roughly the 1500s to 1700s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. And you know what? For the 8.3 seconds, let's just get glass blowing and vessel crafting up, and then we'll wrap it up. I don't want to go too much further than 10 minutes. All right, the skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. We take glass blowing and vessel crafting. We add the lesson. We add the memory. We add the element of the soul. There's always more to learn. Thank you all for enduring an extended episode. I'm really happy with how the salon turned out, especially because there's just some fun stuff in that as well. So for the remainder of the season, we don't actually have that much time left. But there's a couple things that I'll be doing. So one, we'll need to keep the Wild Surmise until I have a plan for it. I believe one thing that I can use this for actually would be the Shadowed Stare. So suppose, we get hit by a Numa or something like that, we can use the Wild Surmise we can chuck that out pretty quickly. Or we can use it to level something up. Obviously, I'm not too militant about how we use it. But yeah, so where I can, try and take advantage of the fact that we have access to a little bit more than what I originally thought we did. So we have a few Henneveck texts that we can read now, and the Tripled Heart and the Most Sorrowful End of Lady Nona are well within my access. And more importantly, I don't believe we have herbs and infusions, so these wind up giving me some skills that I wouldn't otherwise have access to. So again, as always, we try to weigh the balance. Acquiring new skills is usually a priority over leveling up existing skills. If I can level up existing skills, I just want to make sure it's a thoughtful way in terms of how it gets me access to new things, either branches on the Watchman's Tree or potentially books that I want to read. But of course, the last and most interesting development is the fact that I now have Whist. I was not expecting to have access to that when I got it. And so this will now allow me to bring in Mr. Kill. If I want to really improve the winter, I'm going to need to pay to restore the Whist. But this now means that the Echoing Chamber is in shooting distance, because I should be able to make Solomon's Preparation before too long. This one, this room in particular, is very helpful because it has a desk that has access to both Nectar and Grail. And so Nectar and Grail. So I tend to find the Nectar and Grail combination particularly helpful. The fact that there isn't a desk that has access to Nectar early on in the game is a point of mild frustration when it comes to clearing out certain curses. Anyways, all of this will be handled in the future. I think we've got one more episode left for the week. But until then, have a good time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.